We are up to the page Dalid Omid Aleph, in the middle of the page. Basically, we're talking about a case over here is where a woman says she don't have the hana from anybody, and we said that the husband cannot annul the neder, and she can benefit from leket shikhan pay. And we had three different ways of understanding whether the husband was included in the neder in the first place. We had two opinions that said that the husband was never included in the neder, like Ula said, and therefore that's why he cannot annul the neder because it doesn't affect him at all. And furthermore, if the husband is impoverished, she can go get leket shikha pay because that is hefker. Even though she says she doesn't have any benefit from any individual, but this is no individual. It's ownerless, belongs to nobody. And Rav Nachman said something similar, that the husband is not included. What the Mishnah is trying to tell you is that if they ever get divorced, then the neder kicks in for him as well, because he's no longer, it's only something between him and her, and now there's no longer between him and her, and he's affected by it as well. And the only thing that she can get is then leket shikha peya. But Rabba said no, that the husband is included, and the Mishnah is explaining. So if the husband is included, why can't the husband annul the neder? Because it's always because she can only get leket shikha peya. And even though before we learned the case of a store that alternative is not good enough, we don't say by a store that the husband cannot cancel because can get leket shikha peya. So he says it depends on the seasons. Not all seasons leket shikha peya are available. Different in the summer and the winter. So the Gemara says, you say, so what's available to her? Leket shikha peya. The Gemara asks a question. There's something else available to her as well, and why don't we include that? When a person has a proper, we're going to learn this. You have a field, and then you have grains, everything else, and then before you can have for yourself, there's a number of obligations, a number of types that you have to give, and as long as you don't do that, it's called tevel. Tevel means toiv. It's not good for you yet. You haven't completed it. What do you have to do? You have to give truma. You have to give meiser, and then from the meiser you have to give truma itself. A big argument. The trumas meiser only the Levi can give, because what happens is you give 10% to the Levi, and then the Levi from that gives 10% to the Kohen, known as Trumas Meiser and Korach, Parshat Korach. The question is, can the original owner do that already, give the Trumas Meiser or not? In fact, is the Trumas Meiser already there but buried inside, or the Trumas Meiser, that Chiyuv doesn't begin until after you gave the Meiser to the Levi, then suddenly comes up a new Chiyuv called Trumas Meiser. Okay, but those are things that are called Tevel. And then you have Meiser Rishon, which is what we just said that, and then you have Ma'aser Sheni, which the first, second, fourth, fifth year you have to bring to Yerushalayim with you, another 10%. So the total is 22% approximately. And I mentioned once before that interesting Reagan, when he was president, he wanted to give a 22% tax, flat tax rate coming from here. And then you have Ma'aser Ani. Ma'aser Ani is the third and sixth year, you give it to the poor. So why doesn't our Mishnah include that she also has another source? She can get Ma'aser Ani. Now, the big machlekes Rishonim, just a quick introduction. We know that if you ate, let's say, tevel, you're chayiv misa. What about if you already gave the truma, you gave them the meiser rishon to the Levi, you just didn't give the meiser ani? Are you still chayiv misa? So there's a big machlekes Rishonim. The Ran on this Gemara here clearly says yes, you are, because it's still called tevel. And according to other Rishonim, you're not chayiv misa; it's only a lav. The same thing actually is by Ma'aser Rishon also machlekes. Is it only truma that you chayiv miss if it's there and you didn't give it? But bottom line is Ma'aser Ani is something that's available, and it's like hefker. So why does the Mishnah say she's limited to leket shikha peya, which you leave behind? Why don't it say that the 10% you have to give to the poor, she also can take it? Now we are going to learn a concept called toivas hana. Toivas hana is the owner of the truma. Before he gives it a coin, he has the right to give the truma to anybody that he wants. So he still has certain rights in that truma, even though the truma belongs to the kohenim. He can't do anything. And if he does not give the truma, no particular kohen can actually demand it from him, because how do you know you're the kohen that I'm going to give it to? But it's called gezel hashevet. You're stealing from the entire tribe, because the fact is one of the kohenim have to earn it, and you take it away from the entire tribe. What do I have? I have the right to determine who I give it to. It's called teivas hana. Does that give me ownership or not? Does that have value, money value? Even though we mentioned the idea that people might go to our Yisrael and say, look, my grandson's a kohen, here's $5, give him, that's $100 worth of tavua truma that you have. Is that worth money? Does that mean I have certain ownership on that? That's called teivas hana. We'll have an argument if teivas hana is mammon or ain't a mammon. Do I still have any rights? in many places. When we have condition as well, yes, good, and we'll have it in many places. So, let's get to our Gemara now. So first, the Gemara asks for Liktanu Maiser. Why doesn't it include also Maiser Ani? That she can, that no one of her other sources is getting the 10% that's entitled for a poor person. And in fact, what Tanya in another brayso it says there includes a Maiser Ani. Why does our Mishnah omit Maiser Ani? It's not a question. There's an argument between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbanan, and we're going to say that this is the argument by us between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbanan. And what's that? And that's as follows. This now we learn if you buy from an Amma Uretz, let's say grain, wheat, you don't have to give truma because Amaratz give truma. But when it comes to Meiser, we say that even though Roi Amaratzim actually Ma'asin, the vast majority of Shabbos most of Amaratzim do give Meiser, but some don't. And we are choshid that maybe he didn't give Meiser, so we call that the Mai. The Mai is really two words, da Mai. What is this? So the question is, what about Meiser Ani? Do we suspect that they didn't give Meiser Ani as well or not? The Gemara says that Ein Adam. He said no. The Belzer says Ein Adam tzadich likra shem al Meiser Ani shel Mai. When you buy wheat from an Amorit, you have to set aside Meiser Rishon, but you don't have to set aside Meiser Ani. We don't suspect the Amaratim of not distributing the Meiser Ani or not setting aside the Meiser Ani. Yeah. So now, for example, Meiser Rishon, what you do is you set it aside, and you get to keep it for yourself because which Levi can take it from you? We have a rule on Meiser Chavel V'Raya, and you know Yisrael, according to almost all opinions, not everybody, most opinions hold Yisrael can eat Meiser. I may hold no, but most of the opinion, most opinion hold that a Yisrael can eat Meiser. So you set it aside and then you eat it yourself because which Levi can take it? Meiser Chavel V'Raya and Roiv Amaratzim. And therefore you keep it yourself. But Meiser Ani, you don't have to set aside. Why? Because Rabbi Eliezer says that, we'll see in a minute why. And the Chachamim say, no, Koyed Hashem. The Chachamim say no, just like we suspect them not giving Meiser Rishon, maybe they didn't give Meiser Ani as well. So therefore you have to recall a certain area, one of the side, areas of extremities of the field, let's say, you say, that is my Ani, but you don't have to set aside. You don't have to give it away to anybody because again, majority of them would have said it, would have given it away, and therefore, if an Ani wants to, let them prove that this is actually Meiser Ani.
Trump being an Ani.
Yeah.
He's not understanding where he's going to come from.
That's true. Yeah.
Bring documentary evidence.
Okay. Now, what's the argument? My love. This is the argument. The one who holds that there's one, the argument is, does Meiser Ani make this like Tevel or not? The fact that you did not give Meiser Ani is that Tevel or not? So the one who holds is that it should be the other way around. But now we jump to the Chachamim. The Chachamim hold that it's Tevel, that a suffix is Tevel, that a Badai is Tevel. If he did not give Meiser Ani, that crop there is considered Tevel. So it holds Islay Trevis Ana. Therefore, he says, if it is tevel, then therefore, when the Torah says that you have to give, that means the Torah is telling you have to give it to somebody. If you have to give it to somebody, then that means the Torah is giving you a right, and if a right also gives you a benefit, and that benefit is I can determine who I give that to. So I have that toivas hana, that benefit, and therefore that's worth money. That is mammon. So therefore, according to the Chachamim, they say that we're worried that there's tevel over here, and that's why we're machmir. We say, look, you got to set it aside because the entire crop is tevel if you don't give meiser ani. So you have to set it aside, even though most Amaratza would have given it, but you don't have to give it away because let the poor person prove it. But on the other hand, why do you? Because if you hold that as tevel, then automatically you hold that the balabos is mandated to give it away, and if the balabos is mandated to give it away, he has tevis hana. If he has tevis hana, it's worth money. And therefore, if I made a thing, if she said I don't have any hana from anybody, she cannot go ahead. That's our mission and take meiser oni because I'm getting hana from that person because that person has some benefit by distributing the meiser oni. That's the tevis hana. So I'm getting Hana from that person. I made a neder. This woman made a neder. I don't have any enough. Anybody who call is you cannot take my son. Leket you can pay is lying there. It's hefker. You come and take it. Nobody's giving it. So therefore, you have no enough from that person because it's disassociated with that person. When it comes to Maisa Ani, according to the Chachamim, because they say that Maisa Ani makes the entire crop tevel, which means when the Torah says you have to give you all your Maisas, the Torah is including Maisa Ani, and that's where we learn out the whole idea of what do you call it? Tevas Hana. Where do you have Tevas Hana from? If the Torah tells you to give it, that means you have Tevas Hana, and therefore.
How does that change the mitzvah of honesty? The etzim hana of deciding which coin on.
No. Mitzvah means the hana that comes from the mitzvah. Like I'm sitting in the sukkah. No. I'm sitting. It's a side thing. I'm sitting in the sukkah. That's not the mitzvah to choose. The mitzvah is not to choose which coin it is. The mitzvah is to give the coin. It happens to be that because I can choose which coin it is. By the sukkah, the mitzvah to sit in the sukkah, and I'm having I'm sitting in the sukkah. That's the mitzvah itself. Giving the mitzvah lav. Yeah. However, so Sveika Tevuk, somebody holds Eastern Tevus Anova Kiv and Eastern Tevus Anova Mahanya. Since the Balabos still has some rights to this and he has Anor, therefore, if she takes from him, she's having Hanor from a person. You can't do that. But the man Domar ain't no Kurdish, but Abelezer says that no, you don't have to bother with Maisilani because he holds Sveika ain't a table. He holds that if you don't give if the Amorah did not give Meiser Oni, it doesn't matter. It's not tevel at all. We're saying the word Sveika ain't a tevel, even Vadai ain't a tevel, even if it definitely did not give Meiser Oni. There's no tevel over here. You have a mitzvah give Meiser Oni, but there's no tevel. So when the Torah says give, distribute, it was not included the union of Meiser Ani to say in the give it, because in other words, what's Meiser Ani? Leave it there. It's heft. So when she comes and takes Meiser Ani, she's not taking it from this guy. It's like hefker. Therefore, she's allowed to. The choshen on the table, less it the Torah enough. Therefore, she can have enough. So that's how we wanted to learn the machlekes. And the Ran therefore said interesting. So what is the crux of the argument? Okay, we explained the argument of Tevas Hana is dependent on whether it's Tevel or not. If it's Tevel, then the Torah says distribute, including Meiser Ani, and therefore you're having Tevas Hana, and therefore if the woman takes it from that person, she's having Hana from that person. If you heard, she said she is saying I don't have Hana from any person, and she's having Hana because it's worth that from that she's getting something from that person, because the fact that he has Tevas Hana, which means that person has a right in this Meiser Ani. Because the Meiser Ani belongs to the poor. What's the shaila here?
When we say here, talk about
yeah, but talking about him, that means he has a certain ownership here, and the moment he has ownership, I'm having an offer from him. It's not that she has no part of the Tevas Hana. Exactly, it's not hefty. There's still strings attached, and that string is Tevas Hana. The fact that he has a right, and therefore she is getting something from somebody. Mashenkin, if you hold that there's no Tevas Hana, if you hold that the person therefore doesn't, the owner of the field does not own that 10% that has to be distributed to the poor because it belongs to the poor. Just because he can decide which poor to give it to, but he has no rights in it. He has no ownership, and therefore she's not having a benefit from that person. She's having benefit from hefker. So the Ran says, okay, you explained to me very nicely that how Tevel, how Tevas Hana depends on whether there's Tevel or not Tevel. But you haven't explained to me why do some people hold it as Tevel, some people hold it not Tevel. So those people hold that what do you call it? That it's Tevel is because it says in Pasuk. We have a Shava that Meiser Ani is included. Is included. That Meiser Ani is all the Meisers are equated to each other, and therefore, just like other Meisers, if you don't give it, you don't distribute it, it's considered tevel. You haven't fulfilled yet all your obligations. The same thing, Meiser Ani. But what about the opinion that says that Meiser Ani is not tevel? What's the logic? So the Ran says a fascinating logic. The Ran says the logic as follows. I'm paraphrasing him because this is important. There's a big machlek of Rashi and Tosfos and Yevamos. Now we don't really have a Rashi and Yevamos. It's Tosfos' understanding of a Rashi and Yevamos, but it's a Rashi in Sefta Shabbat Pegimo, where Tosfos understands according to Rashi. What is tevel? Tevel is a mixture of chulin and truma. Tevel is a mixture of chulin and maiserish. In other words, they're all mixed up. And when you're giving truma, I'm not creating anything new. I'm sorting it out. I'm mafresh. I'm setting it out. That's what it is. So the issue of truma is, the issue of tevel is truma. Meiser issues. Truma is meiser. Yeah, the Torah, layered upon layer on this crop over here, and you have they're all mixed together. The problem that Teza had with this is, so a kohen, for example, why does he have to set aside truma? The kohen should be able to eat tevel, because if what is it? There's truma mixed into the tevel, but a kohen's not eat truma. So what's the big deal? Okay, so Rashi will have to say there's a custom that you still have to separate them first. Teza learns no, tevel has nothing to do with truma. Tevel is a separate isser, and nothing to do with meiser, and that's the argument. So says that I'm going to learn like Rashi. That what is tevel? A mixture of whatever is supposed to end up with here. So anything that anybody can eat, if it's separated, then you can eat it while it's together. And anything that nobody can even separate it, or most people can't even separate it, you can't eat it together. So truma, for example, most people cannot eat it when it's separated. So therefore, when it's mixed together, it's forbidden to everybody. But meiser ani. An ani is every Yisra, every person who's an ani is allowed to eat it when it's separated. So therefore, they can eat it when it's together. And every person can become a poor person. Just because you're rich today doesn't mean you won't be poor tomorrow. So therefore, they say, why should it be tevel? What do you tell me? This meiser ani mixed in? So what? You're allowed to eat meiser ani once it's separated. Why can't it mix in? The problem with the Ran's shot is, so what about meiser rishon? Most opinions say that anybody can eat meiser rishon. Once you separated meiser rishon, which you give to the Levi can invite all of his friends to come to the house and eat with him. So following that logic, why should it be tevel if meiser rishon is mixed in? Unless that the Ran will say that those opinions that say that tevel includes, Yechayiv, Misa, for all these things, follows Rab Meir, who says that only a Levi is allowed to eat a meiser rishon, not and a kohen, but not a Yisrael. Okay, let's continue on. Tell you further. Abaye, and I remember Rabbi Yosef only said this, so there's no way in the world Rabbi Yosef would say something without Abaye coming along and having his say. Abaye, who said that the crux of the argument of Rabbi Lezer Chacham is whether we say that meiser only creates tevel or not? Kuli Amos fake a tevel. Maybe everyone holds that it is tevel. Maybe everyone holds that it's tevel. Now, this is the problem with the Ran. If everyone holds that it's tevel and following the logic of the Ran, that means that the meiser only is mixed in, and also the meiser rishon is mixed in. And not everybody holds that meiser rishon is forbidden to. In fact, almost all the time, Meir hold that meiser rishon is permitted to everybody. So, following the logic of the Ran, why is it called tevel if you don't give meiser rishon when if it's separated you're allowed to eat it? So when it's mixed together, also you should be able to eat it. But anyway, so the Gemara continues. Abaye says, so what's the argument? The argument is very simple. Are we suspicious that the Amoras did not give meiser ani or not? That's all. That's the argument. They're not arguing halacha. They're arguing it in a practical sense. You think that poor people will hold back from giving meiser ani? Now they're not giving meiser rishon. Those who don't want to give because they don't feel it's that important. Why give away 10%? That's substantial. New meiser ani, the same thing. Why give 10%? But I can argue when it comes to meiser ani, they don't feel so bad. They say, look, I could become poor in a minute if I go ahead and make all my assets hefker. What does that make me? I'm a poor person, so I'm entitled to meiser ani. So what I can always do is I'll make myself poor for 2 minutes. I'll take the meiser ani back, and I'll take it back. So then this person who doesn't want to give away 10%, he can find a ruse in how to make sure he does the meiser ani without costing a cent.
Just hope that nobody comes in the meantime.
Oh, and the other opinion says no. He's scared that 1 minute that because he has to say in front of 2 people. Yeah, so one of the people that you told him to will jump in. It runs faster than you. And he'll jump in. That's the problem. So Kuli Almas make a table. Rabbi Lezer this is the argument. Rabbi Lezer says we're not suspicious that poor people that the Amoratzim won't give meiser ani when they'll not the chasam. If you make it still chasam hefker, and he himself becomes poor, he can take it. Less let's say that he thinks I'm not losing anything. What's the big deal? I can do the right thing, and it costs me nothing. That people will not make it hefker. The mirtus, he's scared. Maybe someone will jump in ahead of him. Nothing to do. So it goes back to the question then. So how come our Mishnah omits meiser ani, only mentions that she has a right to take electric pay because hefker, and it doesn't say that she has a right also to take meiser ani. Meiser ani, if everyone agrees that it's why can't it say what's going on here? If everyone agrees that it's tevel, which according to the logic of Rabbi Yosef says, everyone agrees it's tevel, then everyone agrees that he has tevel, then everyone should say you're not allowed to take meiser ani. Why does the Brisa say you could take meiser ani? What's going on here?
So what if someone's considering ani is not looked at as a family unit? They're individual, the husband's got nothing to do with it.
No, I'm talking about Moritz, the owner of the field.
she can go get.
Yeah, she is an ani because she made a neder that she won't have any benefit, including her husband. Doesn't matter how rich her husband is, she can't benefit from it.
She has her own guilt or something.
Yeah. Now, an ani by definition is someone who is asset rich doesn't matter. It's only money poor, and we actually have an interesting machlekes tonight about that. Yes, the word tzedak is 199, and that means if you have 199 zuz or less, you can collect tzedakah. And we had an opinion that who's a rasha if you give if you give them that 1 penny, yeah, 1 zuz. Rava says, I'll tell you the different rice in Mishnah. Here we're talking about there's 2 seasons, the summer and the winter. In the summer, you're out in the field, everything is drying up. And in the winter, because it's raining, you don't want to get all muddy and everything else, you bring it into the house. So when the Maisa is being distributed from the house, you have the right, in your house, you can decide who to give it to. You don't want people to walk through your threshold, it's your private home. So you decide who to give it to. So then, if you're in control, the woman cannot come because she's getting hana from you. But while it's outside in the summer, when it's outside in the fields, then anybody can come and take it from Hefka, including her. So the Bryce is talking about in the summer. According to some Rishonim, we're talking about in the summer after the winter. In other words, like the end of the run, and it's already old and dry and everything else. That's when it's hefker. According to others, even the beginning of the season. If it's in the summer, you leave it out there. So he says it. That's in the house. Says you should give it out. Therefore, you're getting it. You're getting benefit. She's getting benefit from the person. It's in his house. He's still the part owner. They'll have it. Kamba Meiser Oni, he was doing Meiser Oni, Maschalik Betachagronis. He was doing Meiser Oni that was being distributed out in the granary. Even the Kosabate, since it says in the silos, even the Kosabate says, there's another passage where it says that you should just leave it there in your field. In other words, Hefka, let anyone come take it. You're allowed to have Hano, you're allowed to have benefit. Gemara. A person, now forget about wife, now we're talking about anybody. A person says, I don't want koinim, I don't want levim, I don't want anyone to have any benefit from me. So we said the koin and levim come in whether you like it or not and take it from you against your will. Why? Because you don't own. You don't own it. Oh, you're saying you have to set it aside. I'll set it aside, but I'm not giving it to any koin. I'm not giving it any. There's 2 mitzvahs. There's a hafrosh and there's a sinner. And in fact, some say you make 2 brachas. One for hafrosh's truma and one is for the sinner truma. And so if you go ahead and you so I said no kohen or levi should have any benefit from me. They can come in and they can take the truma from you. Why? Because it doesn't belong to you. I toivas hana. What do you mean it doesn't belong to me? I have the benefit to decide which kohen to give it to. No, must be that toivas hana has no value because machlekes are showing, and the tanaim must be that toivas hana ain't a mom. Then the Mishnah continues. But if you say these kainim shouldn't get from me, or these levim, then they have no right to come in. Other kainim should get it. Now, if Tevis Hana is not mammon, why can't they come and take it from me? Says the Mishnah seems to be contradicting itself. What's the chiluk if you say all the kainim collectively cannot come from me, or you just say this particular group of kainim cannot take it? What's the difference? Either the truma belongs to me, then no kainim can get it, or the truma does not belong to me, then even the kainim I ban should be able to come and get it. Says the Gemara. Alma, if the Mishnah starts only they can come in and take it about Korchai, Alma, Tevasana, Einamam, it's not mine. It's not my truma. I have no rights in it. So different thing, come take it. They're not taking it from me. Amos say when they look in the next case, Koinim, Elu, Leviim, Elu, Nenili, these particular Koinim don't have any of me, then Yitlu Achedim, others can come and take it. Ablahani Leva, not these. Why not these? Because they're taking it from me. Alma, Tevasana is Mammon. What's going on here? So the Gemara is going to try to say that well, interesting thing, that the 2 dinim in the Mishnah are actually 2 different Tanaim. One Tana holds Tevis and Mammon, one Tana holds Tevis and not Mammon, and that's the 2 opinions in the Mishnah. Now, who holds Tevis and Mammon out? Tanya, we learned, if I go ahead and I steal, if I steal your truma, I got to pay back, reimburse you, plus pay an extra penalty of a quarter, which we call a chaimish. What happens? I steal the tevel. You have over there the crop set aside, set aside as tevel, and you haven't yet set aside the truma, the maises, and I steal it in that state. What do I? And then I get caught. I got to pay you. What do I have to pay you back? You, the Yisrael who owns this. Exactly. You, the truma that's mixed into the component, that's mixed into the chulin, and the ma'isa that's in the chulin, it's not yours because you have to distribute it. So, for example, a total of 22%. So, do I only have to pay you 78%? These are practical figures because it's not exactly that, because it's a 10% from what's balanced and 10% from what's balanced there. Do I have to pay you just that, or do I got to pay the full 100%? Or there's a third option. We'll see in a minute. Says the Gemara, Mishal, according to Rebbe, is Mishal that made Tibla, you have to pay the entire amount. Why do you have to pay the entire amount? So we're going to learn this. Because the owner not only owns the chulin, he also owns the Tevas Hana, the right to give away the Truma. And therefore, Tevas Hana is money. So Rebbe holds that Tevas Hana is mammon, so you have to reimburse it for the Truma. Big Machek is a shame on how to understand that. And goes as follows. The fact that we say Tevas Hana is mammon, is that the reason why you consider to have ownership? Or is that a proof that you have ownership? What do you mean? Let's say there's 2% truma in that mixture, and the tevas, and that 2% of truma is worth, let's say, $100 of grains. You have the right to give it to whoever you want. So you have tevas enough. How much of that tevas enough is worth? So we say, how much would a person? This is how you evaluate. How much would a person be willing to pay you? Give it to my grandson who's a kohen. Maybe $10. It's worth him to give you $10 to get $100 worth of truma to my grandson. So what do you pay to this owner now? Do I pay him for the chulin and I pay him those $10, which is what you own in that truma, or do I pay you now the entire $100 of that truma? So it depends how we understand Tevas Hana's mom. The Ran clearly says over here that you only pay the $10 because the Tevas Hana is mammon. That's how much is. What does a person, the Yisrael, own in that truma? He doesn't own the truma itself. He owns the Tevas Hana of the thing, which is worth $10. The other Rishonim say no, that the fact, and it's a famous Ritva in Kedushin, where the Ritva says that the fact that there's Tevas Hana proves proves that you actually are the owner. Why taka do you have the right to give it to anybody you want? Because it's yours. Kol's man, you didn't give it to the kohen yet. The truma belongs to you, 100%, and that's the chiddush. If you hold Tevas Hana's mom, that means you do not lose ownership of it till you gave it over to the kohen. Kol's man, as long as the true is by you, it's 100% mine. Therefore, I have to reimburse you the full $100. Okay, let's continue. That's the view of Rebbe. And Rabbi Yossi says, no, all you have to pay is the value of the chulin. No, the truma does not belong to the kohen. My love, what's going on here? But how can we look at the argument pivots around this? Rebbe saw that Tevas Hana's mom and that the Yisrael still owns something here in the truma section as well, because Tevas Hana's value, and that's Rebbe. And therefore, according to Rebbe, if you say what do you call it? That kohenim elu, then these kohenim cannot take it because I have ownership; they're having benefit from me. Only the other kohenim. The first part of the mission is the Reish Yehuda, who holds Tevas Hana Einamon. He holds that the fact that the Tevas Hana has no value whatsoever. So therefore, all kohenim, even that band, all kohenim come and take it because Tevas Hana. That's what he says. Second one, I know I can say, Kuli Alma, everyone holds Tevas Hana Einamon. Everyone holds that what Tevas Hana is not money. Let's say that's halach. According to Rambam, others disagree. That Tevas Hana has no value whatsoever. No, if Tevas Hana has no value, why in the world did Rebbe say that you have to pay for the truma part of it as well? You're arguing a case where you haven't yet set anything aside yet. It's all mixed in together in the table. It's not like you set it aside. The guy took a whole bunch in the truma, had him set aside. And and because it hasn't been set aside, since you haven't set aside a trumas maisis, so therefore it's like there's no truma there yet. It's all chulin because you haven't. Knows when does the truma start? Only after you set it aside. Right now, what do you have in it? Only chulin, and therefore Rebbe says pay for the whole lot. Rabbi Yossi says no, that even though you didn't set aside, it was set aside for you already. So therefore, there is truma sitting in there, and you have no ownership over it because Tevas Hana is not money. Therefore, that person has to only reimburse you for the chulin part of that mixture, and not for the truma part, because the truma is already there. Why should you pay for it? Not like Rebbe says that if you didn't set aside the truma yet, there's no truma there at all. Okay. Which means what we said originally, the Rand's logic and Rashi, that what's the whole idea of table that is truma is mixed in, would not be according to one that says because they're saying that if you didn't, that as long as it's all mixed together, you haven't yet set aside anything. There's no truma there yet. It's called tevel. It's like Tesha says, a separate iser tevel, and you chayiv misa for that. Says
feels they have to give the
So if you hold about Tanish Lohuma Kiloi Hurmadamin, so what do you have here? Tell you got to pay for the whole amount. Because there's no truma. The Balabas, this Balabas owns all of it at the moment. When does the truma kick in? The moment you separate it, you just created truma. You just created Maisa. The other view says no. What do you think? What do you think Tevel is? It's all mixed together. So therefore, and since value, Tevis has no value, he doesn't have to reimburse you for the truma for the Maisa.
does he have to give it from the Maisa to the
No, which client can claim it? It's moment she'ain lo teva. So therefore he doesn't pay it.
And also,
so what do you do with it?
He has to. Oh, he has to. He said if he.
The Ganav back. Ganav takes the whole.
Oh, he has to
pays
give
back.
truma Maisa.
So he has to give
Yeah,
it
for sure.
back.
so
Yeah.
from the
And until he
22%,
gives it, and the other guy doesn't have to give it anything left on the 78%. He doesn't have to give anything.
No, that other guy, whatever was taken away. Who?
No,
the Balabas,
the
the
Balabas, the 78%.
Nignav.
that's
It's sitting by the Gaza. What do you mean?
no, he gives it back. He has to give it back. Mishalim will pay Chol Shabbat. He has
Yeah,
to pay it back.
So he
Where's
gets
the money?
So you have to give
78%.
Maisa for that 78%.
No.
It's all good to go.
All
It's
good
as
to
if
go.
it's cleared.
Yeah, you don't give mice for the money. You give mice from the tour. The tour he doesn't have anymore. Tour is by the Gaza.
And the
So-
Gazan has to give him his 22%. He has to give 2%.
You have to give the criminal mice to anybody else because the Gaza doesn't. Choy to Niskit called. You know why? Because he's.
You took a core, give back a core. Is that too?
You could do that. You could. If he gives back the original thing, that's what to talk about. They don't talk about
That's
that.
what I'm saying. So what?
No, we're talking about a case here is either he ate it up already, or he was caught, much later. Whatever he did, yeah, it's gone. Okay, says the Gemara. Says the Gemara. The I understand this Gemara. Ain't a moment. If you're telling me that the Teva Sana is worthless, then Mali Hurma. What's the difference you set aside if you didn't set aside? The fact is that that the Balabas, because it's exactly how to learn Pshat here. The fact is that he didn't cause any loss whatsoever he didn't cause him a loss. Whether you consider Hurmu, whether you consider Loihu, even if you don't consider Hurmu, the owner ultimately is not going to be able to keep that 22%. The owner ultimately have to give part of it to the Kohen, part of it to the Levi. So the fact is the Ganav did not steal from the owner that 22%. Call it Truma, call it Tevel, call what you want.
All we can say is maybe he's a Petzovah no, which we said is a couple.
But no, in a moment. If you're saying that this whole answer is based on no money, so even if he's telling me that there's no truma in there yet, there's no mice in there yet, the fact is that the owner is not going to end up with 100% of what the Ghana stole. He's only going to end up with 78%. So why pay him for the 20%? I don't care if you call it truma. I don't care if you call it tomorrow truma. The fact is that 22% is not going to be mine. So what's going on? Oh, come along, Rabbi says you're right. Rabbi says, I'll tell you. Sorry, I missed a few lines. Here we go. Yeah, time. This is the reason. You're right, and this is how the Rishonim learn. We don't know. Is Tevis Hana Mammon or not? If you tell me that Tevis Hana, let's go back to the original thing. If you tell me Tevis Hana has value, and that it makes sense. You have to pay him for the value of the truma because you took it away from us. If you hold, but we don't understand that Rabbi Yossi. So how come Rabbi says you don't have to pay? If you hold Tevis Hana is not money, we understand Rabbi Yossi, but we don't understand Rabbi. So therefore, I'll tell you can learn either way. Really, Tevis Hana is not money. So we understand Rabbi Yossi why you don't have to reimburse for the truma. So how come Rabbi says you do? It's a penalty. We want to give you a disincentive. We discourage you from stealing again. You should know you're going to pay for the full amount, or even for the Tevis Hana, whichever opinion you said before, because we don't want you to go ahead and continue to steal. Don't be a Talmud Chacham Ganav. That I stole 100%, I don't have to pay back 78%. No, we don't want that to happen. And Rabbi Yossi, and if you hold the other way around, if you hold that really Tevis Hana is money, so Rebbe makes sense. How can Rabbi Yossi says that you don't have to pay for the Trumat part of it and you stole it anyway? We're penalizing the Balabas. Why do you have a Tevel sitting around in your yard? The moment it became Tevel, you should have already given Trumat straight away. It's your fault, and therefore we penalize the Balabas for procrastinating. Therefore, you're not going to get reimbursed for the full amount. Rabbi Yehuda Savar Konsura Balabayis. We penalize the Balabas. We don't have to let the Tevel hang around. Says the Gemara. So anyway, we didn't answer our mission now. How can the Mishnah start off saying that if all the kohanim are forbidden, they just walk in and take it away? But if I say part of the kohanim, that segment of kohanim cannot come into my field. What's the difference? So Rava says a very logical thing. Rava Amar shiny truma. Before we learn inside, very simple. When you said that that none of the kohanim can get the truma, I no longer have tevis and no. What's a tevis and no? That I have the right to decide which kohen to give it to, but I can't because I just said all kohen. I'm discriminating against all kohenim equally. I hate them all. So therefore, so what do I have left? What do I own? I don't own anything in the truma anymore. It's like hefker. They can come and take it. They'll take it from me. They can hefker. But if I say I have no. Oh, that's I know.
Clearly, he's enjoying it.
That is
Like a lot, if you smash plates,
to calm down your anger.
I let out my
True,
frustration.
But there's no value to this kind of a no where I give. But if I say this group of kohenim cannot have truma, but everyone else can, I still have the tevis anot to give to other kohenim. So I have ownership. How can you come and take it? You're taking from me. That's the one. Rava says, shiny truma. Truma is different. Behind the time, but this is the reason why they can come and take it. Truma is only suitable to kohenim, and we're keeping the ka'asel and misalayu. Since I decided that no kohen will get from me, shavia afar ba'alma. I turned this truma into af afar, to dust, because there's no ownership, and therefore because there's no ownership and there's dust. And so it's hefker. They can come and take it. But if I only ask a certain, now this language of offer we find one other place by chametz. Chametz, when we make a bittul, we say hefker the afra b'alma. Where's that come from? It comes from right here. Because if I don't own it, it's like dust. Now we'll talk about this more tomorrow. Very excited is a good thing we learned from this little gemara, but we're a bit over.